it wasn't a big deal. That's all I knew. And everywhere I looked around, people were wearing the same outfit. So yeah, that was all I knew. I didn't know that it's an option in other countries not to wear a uniform. So because moving from under the Russians' wing, he wanted to prove himself that he can do better, and that's where the shortages started to come in Romania too, because he put all the energy and all the money into building great things, but not offering stuff and things to the people. Well, they felt at the time that if we let them live, they would run away because we didn't know who were the enemies and who were the friends at that time, and everything was in a turmoil, so we were not sure what was going to happen. And everybody was hearing stories about how there are tunnels, secret tunnels that were leading from one place to another, and you didn't know who to trust and who not to trust. And at the time, it just felt that the safest thing to do was to basically execute them, so they would not come back in power. But when the revolution started, Ceausescu was actually not in the country. He was visiting, I would say Iran, I'm not sure, but he was visiting another country. And Elena is the name of his wife. She was in the country, and she ordered the bombing of the whole town. And they are talking about 250,000 people living in that town at that time. And because the people were against her and against the regime, she wanted everybody dead, and actually she wanted the whole town leveled.
And it was the town next to yours?
Yes, yeah. So we basically heard a lot of stories of how she was actually worse than him, and she was the driving force for everything bad that really happened in the country. We hated it. It was the same. A lot of Romanians, and again, like a lot of the Romanians that were alive during the Second World War and at the end of the Second World War, they were hoping that the Americans would intervene and would take us away from the Russians and their dictatorship in the area. And when the Americans did not do anything, and they promised but they did not deliver, people started to really hate them. A lot of times I would hear from my grandfather stories about how both the Russians and the Americans really disappointed us. Russia stayed the same. And well, obviously U.S. changed since I'm here. But it just was more of an eye-opening, because you could hear about the real news that was going on, instead of just listening to the fake news that was on TV every night about how great we were and how well we are doing in wheat production and corn production and things like that. So once you had more information coming to you, and you had more of a realistic approach to what was going on in the rest of the world, it was a little bit easier to make your own opinion on things.